get in early for a 3 hour meeting on cutting industrial costs.
Oh, nice.
Super enjoyable.
So I think this thing is live. My name is Alex Barker, and it is 9:21 right now, and we're going to be talking about the transfer of the Leadership Dojo over to my my good friend here, Josh. Josh, and how do you say your last name? I was about to say it, but I thought, you know what? I'm not 100% sure.
Plock.
Plock. Okay.
Yeah,
So not Plosh. Plock.
correct.
Cool.
I answer to either
So,
one, though.
what's that?
I said I'll answer to either one. You get used to
Okay.
it.
So my buddy Josh Plock has contacted me about the Leadership Dojo, and we wanted to be really transparent about this process because, as Josh pointed out, searching in Google that he was never able to find anyone who's ever, quote, sold a podcast or transferred a podcast to someone else. So we are putting out here what we're doing, and we're being 100% transparent about the numbers and about everything that I've done with the show. And I know that some people have been following me for a while, so Josh, if you don't mind, I'm just going to give a little bit of background about the show, and then I'll talk just briefly about where I came to recently and how you and I met. Does that
Sure.
sound okay?
Great.
So I created the Leadership Dojo in fall of 2013, and it was when I started my new job, and it was all about self-development, leadership, success, principles, and really it was a selfish desire for me to connect with really cool people. And the show did really, really well. It just did about 40,000 downloads in 2 months, in the first 2 months that it was released. And then after that, it started off like at 10,000 downloads a month, and it just crept slowly upward. And then about over 6 months into it, I realized that it was a lot of fun, but it was sucking up a lot of my time, a lot of my family time, and I needed a readjustment. And the birth of my second daughter kind of brought this upon myself, and I stopped. I stopped the Leadership Dojo. I stopped developing episodes around like episode 54, 55. Well, since then, the show gets around anywhere from 2 to 3,000 downloads a month, and I've thought when I stopped it, first people said you got to keep doing this, man. You got to keep doing this show, and I didn't because I just knew how the time commitment involved. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could hand this off to someone? And I talked to two people who were interested, but it just didn't work out. And so nearly a year later, uh, my daughter is almost one. My youngest is almost one now. I said to myself, Alex, it's on your website still. People are still listening. Back in, I just had the stats up in an email. I sent you a screenshot of that. Back in January, we had over 3,000 downloads. So people are still finding the show. They're still downloading it. They're still enjoying it. But it's just sitting there. And I said, Alex, you need to do something with this because there's a book idea here. There is tons of awesome content here. You got to figure something out. And this is kind of where Josh comes into the picture because Josh and I met in Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income community, and I basically put up on there, said, hey, I did the show, and what do you guys think I should do with it? And some people were throwing out some ideas, but Josh took the effort to reach out to me one on one. And Josh, if you wouldn't mind, just share with me, I guess, a little bit more. I know more about you, but just share with us like who you are and what you do and why you wanted to get the Leadership Dojo.
Sure. So I was a listener, as I had shared with you before. So I enjoyed when you were recording. It had been, like you said, off the air for a while. And so it just Honestly, I hadn't looked at it in a while, but I saw again, as you had mentioned in Pat Flynn's group, that you had posted on it, and at the same time, I was looking at some options to start recording a podcast very similar to what you were doing, what a couple of the other podcasters that I know we both listen to were doing, and when I saw that, I said, you know what, let's reach out, see if we could work something out. I had a couple ideas looking at it, and based on your post on some things that maybe we could work together on, and I said, hey, let's throw it out there. The worst you can say is no, and see where this thing goes.
Yeah, and as you and I were talking for the first time, I think it was like on a Sunday afternoon. I think it was this week, actually, wasn't it? Uh, I thought to myself, oh man, we should have been recording this conversation because there was a lot of valuable, insights we discovered. That you and I believe in the same sort of things.
Wish we could remember all those valuable insights that we've both been up for the last 16 hours.
Yeah, I should have mentioned earlier. It's 9:30 p.m. when we're recording this, and I woke up at 4:30. Josh, you said that you woke up about the same time or earlier.
5, yep.
So, yeah, we're pretty tired right now, but we wanted to get this conversation done so that we can figure out what the next steps are for transferring the name. So, we talked on Sunday. We talked about, what it could possibly look like. What would my involvement be with it? Monetization, things like that. What Josh was thinking as far as like what the future looks like. And so I think we had decided at this point was to answer a few questions, which we did through email, and heck, maybe I'll make that available on my website. So go to my website, alexbarker.co. Maybe I'll reveal that later. But with your first email, we shared the same vision. You wanted to keep the vision of the show the same, where we'll be talking to leaders, we'll be talking about from famous athletes to best-selling authors to business CEOs about what it means to live an extraordinary life and leave a legacy and help other people. And Josh, you were boldly thinking that April 1st to 15th we record our transfer podcast episodes. I'm thinking maybe that's a good idea. I'm not exactly sure myself, but if we can move this process along, yeah, that we could do that. And so with price, this would probably be a good time to be completely open and honest.
Sure.
Let's talk about that. So I'm looking at, okay. So you and I, as we were talking on Sunday, I said, I spent a lot of time and effort putting into the show, and I did make some money off of it. Now, the problem with selling something like this is that it's not currently making any money, right? And it's almost a year old now since a recent episode has come out.
Sure.
So, how does that affect the value? And then you brought up a good point, Josh, on the phone. You said, or actually in an email, you said that sometimes, businesses are typically sold 3 times the profit, and then not the profit, the sales, right?
Right.
You said, yeah, and then online business is anywhere from 3 to 6 times. But then again, how do you measure something that's a little bit old? And we also talked about different pricing models, like do we just pay up front, or do we pay up front and then an additional like retainer fee? That way I still have a hold in it. And one thing that I brought up was that I don't want to give this away for free. I think that's not fair, because there is a lot of value in what's created in the past. Because maybe we'll touch on this briefly in a little bit. I know I'm doing most of the talking, and I'm sorry for that. But
I can
Uh,
walk you through if you'd like some of the thought process behind the pitch.
sure, yeah. Let's talk about your pitch on the price,
Mhm.
and yeah, let's do that. Tell me about that.
So, and as we're recording this, we haven't had any back and forth on the price. So,
Yep.
if people are listening to this, just so you know, this is our first conversation going really into details here. So, uh, like you were saying, I researched a good bit, really could not find anything at all about valuation. We had not when you just said you had made some money off it. That's the first time we had covered that, so we hadn't reviewed those numbers.
Hmm.
And based on our conversation, really what I pitched to you was a price that included some future potential, at least monetization for you, and some future involvement. So,
Yep.
um, do you want to go over the numbers that we can?
Sure.
Okay. Uh, you're looking at them, so why don't you, so I don't mess
Yeah.
anything up.
Yeah, I got them up. So after you did some research, you said 10% of ownership moving forward to of monetization. Did you want to share anything about that?
Sure. So that would include, any potential affiliate, any potential advertising or sponsorship was going to be covered under that.
Okay. Um, so I'll tell you right now, I'm comfortable with that.
Hmm.
You here's so for like affiliates, like you don't have to send me, if you made $50 off of Amazon or something like that, like don't worry about that. I'm not too concerned. If it's over $100, then sure, you can begin at that point. But that just sounds like, something else that you got to keep track of, right? So if it's under 100, don't worry about it. The next part of this is 100% ownership on one coaching clients generated through the program. Any thoughts about that?
So that was something that you and I had talked about that was an interest to you. And again, going back to full transparency, and we had talked about this a little bit on the phone. I like doing things with a team. I think that gives you accountability, it gives you motivation, it gives you a sounding board. When you're linked to other people, I think it just makes everything better. And, we certainly shared that same vision for the podcast. So, the thought was from your side that could again be, something that you could get some money off of. Again, that was something you said you wanted to do. From my side, as far as the podcast is concerned, that just gives listeners another opportunity to grow and to be a part of the community and, continue to add value. So I really felt that that was just a win-win. Again, if you're interested.
Well, I actually would like it to make it a win-win-win. I like to keep my referrers happy. So I would actually bump you down and I would say give me 90% of the first month for coaching clients. So, and that's that, if you're curious about that number, you're watching this, you're like, what the heck is that? That's pretty standard. 15 to 10% is pretty standard for coaching client referrals. So anyone who comes, if we do this, we end up doing this, any client that comes from the Leadership Dojo and wants to hire me as their coach, then I would offer Josh 10% of that. Um, and like you're just gonna accept that, Josh. I don't care if you say no or not.
Seems fair.
Okay, cool. Moving on.
Think we're going to be bailing $10 back and forth.
I charge a lot more than $100 an hour. Don't worry. Okay, so partnership in future group coaching, course offerings, percentage to be determined. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Um, honestly, I don't know like how much that will be wanted. You obviously are going to be establishing the
Sure.
audience. There's going to be some people who will return.
Hmm.
On the same side, there will be, a new a new audience that you will attract.
Sure.
So I'm definitely a part of, something like that, but I'm not going to be probably as involved as probably you will be.
And for that reason, and since that was a little bit, let's say, foggier, I didn't put as much detail into that one.
Right, right. So you're right. We can determine that percentage later.
Hmm.
So the next item is partnership and book, which we can schedule for Q4, Q1 of 2016. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Um, you know who Austin Netzley is by chance?
Mm-mm.
He's the guy behind YoPro Health or
Okay.
Wealth,
Right.
YoPro Wealth, and basically I would just copy what he did.
Okay.
He took like over 60 interviews that he had for his show, and he created a book. If you just type in Austin Netzley, Netzley or something like that in Amazon, you'll find him, and it's a book about making money. And he did a killing of a job, and he's still making tons of money off of his book. And all his book is snippets of his show. To my knowledge, I believe that's what it is.
Okay.
And he's just, you know, quoted people on their wisdom and then expounds upon it, and that's
Mhm.
pretty much it. So, yeah, I'm all about this. I think it would be extremely easy to do. I don't think it'll be. I mean, it would take time, but
Sure.
so I'm just rambling now. So yes, yeah,
But
partnership and book. Yes, you and I, we got this.
and I pushed that out. The thought being then you could have some content up, I could have some content up, so I'm not just riding your coattails. So,
Right, right. And then the last, and probably the piece that most people are probably the most interested in, is what is the actual cash transaction. And I held that off until the last. The first, so what Josh proposed was $1,000 for access, which what we talked about previously. This would be full access to the platform itself, the previous podcast episodes, the rights to those episodes, um, and also the Leadership Dojo 2.0, I guess, right? Season 2, right, of the
mhm.
show. Um, and that was his offer. Now, I had not countered offered. This is the first time we've talked about it because I just said in our emails back and forth, I just pretty much said, okay, let's move forward and let's schedule a time to talk over Google Hangout.
You
So,
get a counter on live Hangout.
yep, yep. So I get to counter in front of the world about your offer on my show. It's very awkward. I've never done anything like this before. So this is how I feel about it. Um, I accept.
Okay.
That I mean,
That wasn't super awkward.
I didn't want to make it all that awkward. The let me give maybe more of my mind behind this.
When
Um,
we put this out, we should break and go to a sponsor before your answer.
yes, I love it. Um, here's the way I see this. I think that amount of money is perfect for the value. I think that because of a couple of reasons. One, it's the podcast is an older platform. Um, Two, though, what makes it valuable is the connections that were made, the people who are on the show, and the people who are still following me and who will still be interested in this topic. Excuse me. Um, but why am I not asking for more? Um, do I think I was thinking about this today. Do I think the Leadership Dojo is worth more than that? And by handing it over to Josh, am I shorting myself out on the work that I did? Probably. And I say that because if you put all the hours I put together for this show and take $1,000 and divide it by the amount of hours, it's probably like less than $1 an hour. It's illegal to pay someone that in the United States. But here's the other thing that sold me on this price, and that made me say I don't want more to ask for more than what Josh proposed, was because I trust Josh. I think that he has the capability to do this. I think he has the capability to take the show over and to relaunch it and to make a difference. And I get to be a part of it still, and I get to help him rebuild this podcast and to relaunch it. And that's a major reason why I'm okay with it, because there's still possibilities in the future for it to grow. So Josh, I'm really taking over this conversation. I apologize for that. I hope our podcast is not like this.
No,
But
so
any thoughts about all this?
So, first off, thank you. That's very exciting. And second, I'm glad that you feel that, because I did put, and it as took me a couple days to put this together, because I really wanted to respect what you put into it and keep you involved. That was important. And again, I didn't even know to this phone call if you were interested in that. Continued involvement.
No, I just made you jump on this call and say nope.
The ultimate cliffhanger, and I tried to get it out of you too, for those following at home. I did. I tried. I pushed.
I know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to keep this as real as possible.
But I did. I'm excited that you want to stay involved. I'm excited to do this with you. I'm excited to kind of switch, the breakdown of work and take over some of the heavy lifting, and maybe you take more of an advisor role, more of a coaching role. I think that's really exciting for the next season of it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it now while we were talking. This is like Leadership Dojo 2.0, right? Or Season 2, or whatever you want to call it. So now...
But we're keeping some of the characters. We haven't killed everybody off in Season
2. Right, yeah. My wife is still alive. Yeah, she can come on sometime. So I think the next steps are... to probably somehow get, and see, this is where I'm lacking in technical knowledge. I don't know how to transfer a podcast. I know there's information out there. I know there's experts out there. But we need to somehow get you access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I still have all the files on a Google Drive, but since they're already on my website and available in the RSS feed,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you have thoughts about this?
I'd have to research that too. I don't know off the top of my head, but we'll have to go offline and find this.
Yeah, one strategy may be, and this may work in your favor, is to take all the shows off, and maybe I'm just blowing gas on this, but take all of them off and then launch your site and just put all of the episodes on that site. Take your RSS feed and put it into iTunes to create a new show, right? If you do it this way, then you also have the power of New and Noteworthy, because if you were to take the same RSS feed, to my limited knowledge, I believe that you would, and if you started adding more episodes to this podcast, then you would not be on New and Noteworthy again.
I'll have to let's look into that because then the part I'd be worried about losing would be the ratings and reviews. Uh,
Yes, I believe you would. However, um, I have enough connections that we can easily get you 20 to 30 reviews within the first couple weeks, and that's what really matters if you relaunch it.
let's look at both ways.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to, look at both options and see.
Do you know, oh, his name is not coming to mind. Uh, Audacity to podcast, or
Hmm,
is that ringing a bell at all to you?
no.
The Audacity to podcast. He's a podcast yeah, Daniel J. Lewis, Audacity to podcast. He's a guy that we should probably call and ask
Okay.
him. Actually, he probably has a podcast episode about how to do this.
I'm
He's really good.
gonna look it up
Um,
now while we're talking.
yeah, so we'll figure out the details on that later, but so that's probably one of the first steps. Um, Probably one of the second steps is to record or to probably think about how we want to relaunch this.
Hmm.
Um, a part of that will be, getting the technical stuff figured out. But do you want me to like get in contact with some of my old guests to see if they'll come back on the show?
Sure. If you have their information, that would be excellent. If you don't
Okay.
mind.
It doesn't hurt to reach out. I can always reach
Mhm.
out.
Sure.
Any favorites come to mind, or do you remember any of the shows and anyone in particular?
I was just, I was actually just today going back and listening to a couple. Let me pull it up again here real quick.
That's okay. You can shoot me a message later.
Okay.
Um,
Because I spent a lot of today driving around, and that's one of the things I was doing.
I think what else did I say here? Obviously, I would give you access to all the podcast files. So actually, it would be awesome to give you everything on my Google Drive because it's taking up like half of my room.
Your storage, right?
Also, do you want my podcast editor? He's excellent.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be
I
wonderful.
will send you a contact. So Josh.
As I think I told you, I'm currently going into a studio, but a lot of my guests are local,
Okay.
so this is going to be a little bit different format for me.
Do you have an Audio Technica?
Yes.
Okay. Do you plan on doing shows from home or no?
Mm, probably not.
Okay.
I have an offsite studio that's hardwired that I can plug into, so that's probably going to be where it is. It's a little more quiet than home.
Do you have someone to do show notes for you?
I have someone, but I'm open if you have someone else.
I mean, I have someone, but she's in the Philippines. I paid her, I think, like $8 or $9 an episode.
Hmm.
She wasn't the greatest, but it got the job done.
Right.
Um, I mean, honestly, what if I was to redo everything and watching how other people have done it, all I would do is I would hire some guy on Fiverr
Hmm.
to write out bullet points of why they need to listen to the show.
Right. Yeah.
Because nothing else matters, and you're not going to make any significant amount of money from affiliate links unless
Right.
you're specifically selling something, and then you should be willing to put in the effort to put in your affiliate link.
Right. So we can look at that or maybe test a couple on Fiverr.
Yeah,
If we're able to find someone, and then we can go back to that. Uh,
yeah.
your
That's
contact.
all. It's your call. I mean, I have a contact, but just let me know.
Okay.
Because yeah, we need a team of VAs to help out with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think what I'll do is I'll put you in contact with my editor.
Okay.
We'll talk more about the relaunch strategy.
Yeah, I'll look over the next day or two at some pros and cons for both of those methods.
I'm gonna I'm also gonna put this on. I mean, I'm recording you, so I'm assuming you don't mind that I share this in places, right?
No, it's fine.
Okay. We have one viewer, I've noticed so far. I know there's gonna be other people viewing this, so I'm not really sure how many, but I'm gonna put this in a forum where I've got. Do you know Dan Miller?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
48
so I'm
days.
gonna put it on his site. He's got a good podcasters subgroup.
Is that the 48 days?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's got a good subgroup of podcasters on his site that are really, really helpful, and I'll shoot this over to them first.
So I think one, just again, and I'm processing this as we go with the relaunch, I guess one question I would have is would we put kind of in mass all of the, if we did it that way, all 1 through 50 up and then go again, or would we drop them on as we go? I'd
You
want to look into the
could. It
timing.
may confuse people if you do
Hmm.
that.
So, yeah, I'll look into some pros and cons because I've not researched what would be the best method.
That's okay. Um, you could make it a whole separate show. You could launch it. I mean, because that's kind of what John Lee Dumas does of Entrepreneur on Fire. He kind of takes his old shows and like creates a whole new show around his old shows. You could do something like that where we would take it completely off and then rebrand it as season one,
Hmm.
launch it in iTunes, and we put a new intro episode and a new outro episode to let people know where to go, right?
We could do that.
And then post it at, Leadership Dojo 2.0 or season 2 or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't put that in the logo though, but that's just
Right.
that's your decision.
Right.
Um, so I'm gonna reach out to a few people and get
Okay.
you in touch with my editor, and that'll be enough steps for me for a couple days
Okay.
because I'm sure we'll get some feedback on some things.
Great. And I'll look into that on my side. I have a phone call set up with a friend of mine here in Oklahoma that runs, I think, the Oklahoma Podcasters Association. So I'll kick some of these past him as well. So
Very cool.
you
I
might have
didn't know that there
some.
was such a thing.
I'm not sure what their format is. Couple guys at the coffee shop.
Podcasters are definitely some of the coolest people in the world. But an association, that sounds like you
It's
got to pay dues and
probably
stuff.
not as official as it sounds.
All right. Any other questions? Do we need to cover anything else?
I think that's it. So, like I said, I'll do that. You've got a couple things to do. We'll both get our list together and circle back tomorrow or the next day.
Very cool. All right. I will shoot some stuff out and I'll talk to you probably this weekend.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
All right. See you later.